Okay, so Maiev builds fundamentally are a interesting thing to talk about. Maiev is a really flexible hero. In my opinion, she's one of a few heroes in the game that just can't be countered if you play her well enough, although that's very fucking debatable, depending on how good or bad you are at her. We can talk about her base kit first and foremost. The thing to understand about the Q is pretty simple. You don't aim for heroes, you aim between heroes, you aim for the space. If I want to hit these two, I aim behind them slightly over here. If I want to hit this one and this one, I'm going to aim slightly behind them like so, and then I'm going to miss because I suck and haven't played Maiev in months. If we go over here, I press like this, and then I hit both of them again. If I want to hit all three of these, then I have to utilize the entire arc, and I go like this, and then I miss because I suck, and then I miss again because I suck, and then I do it correctly by accident by aiming over here, right? So the important thing to understand about Maiev is just the Q is an arc. And the reason why the Q matters more than anything else is you are going to A, pour talents into the Q because that allows you to deal really good AoE damage, and B, it procs your Naisha's Memento, which is what you use to macro. In my opinion, I'm just going to discuss the competitive build Dorkster because I think it's the one that applies to you the most, and I don't want to be here for like 3 hours discussing Maiev builds. So I'm not going to go over the W build. I'm not really going to go over Pursuit of Vengeance because I think if you're playing competitive and you're respecting your opponent, you always go Naisha's. And the reason behind this is very, very straightforward. It's because Naisha's allows you to macro, and versus teams you respect, you don't play for the purpose of killing the enemy team. You play for the purpose of generating an advantage through macro. Right, so I think if you are respecting your enemy team correctly, your build looks a little something like this. You take Naisha's Memento. The 4 is highly debatable. In my opinion, Sudden Vengeance is kind of shit. I feel like blinking for the purpose of damage is really bad. I don't like blinking for the purpose of damage. I think Blade Dance and Pin Down are both better. Pin Down obviously gives you a pseudo win condition. Blade Dance just gives you better wave clear. And it gives you a more consistent button. The fact that it only deals physical damage in a range of, I believe, 2.5 or 3 around Maiev is a little bit of a disadvantage in terms of how far it goes. However, it does get a 20% damage increase off of your Armored Assault at level 16, which changes the math on it just a little bit. So it tends to be quite useful for that specific reason, if you can get into shotgun range of a target. I do think if your purpose is just burst damage, you do go for the Sudden Vengeance, but I think in any other situation, just go for Pin Down because it gives you kind of a pseudo alternate win condition. If you hit 4 heroes with this, you get an additional 40% damage. So, wait, actually, I can't remember how much it is. Let me just double check really quick. Pin Down. That's not what I meant to do. Okay, let's see. When we press Q, it's 333 damage. When we complete the quest, it's 467. That's like, what, 30% damage, I think? 330 versus 4, yeah, it's around 30% damage. So it goes up to 30% max or 40% or something like that. It's quite good. And then if we hit 3 heroes, we get the 25% instantly. If we hit 4, we get all rewards, so up to 40%. It's quite good. It makes your Q very tanky. It also allows you to scale a little bit harder. Thanks to the value of the level 16, which we'll get to discussing in just a moment. The level 7s are slightly variable. Ruthless Spirit increases all damage you do, so debatably if you're going for the Pin Down, you want the Ruthless Spirit. However, the issue with Ruthless Spirit is it requires you to hit an enemy hero specifically with your E. Now the thing is, in competitive, what you end up doing a lot of the time is this and then W. Right from over terrain. If you're doing that, you're not hitting heroes fundamentally. So this is very inconsistent and competitive, where on Maiev very specifically, you want to E from over terrain and utilize that out of terrain vision in order to get a good pull. Right? If you're doing that, then this is a very useless talent because it's just never going to proc. If you're going specifically for the Pursuit of Vengeance at level 1, in competitive, number 1, I think you're disrespecting your opponent, which I don't like. But number 2, you're more likely to proc this, so that is an option for you. Bonds of Corruption, enemy heroes pulled by Umbral have their armor shredded by 10 and slowed by 20%. The only problem with this talent is that the armor shred is a little bit too small. In any situation outside 100-0, you're not going to get much value from this talent. The 100-0 has to be without percentage damage because the second we start factoring percentage damage in, it doesn't achieve that much. It is very good with Naisha's Memento. It is very good for the burst damage procced by your level 16. And it's very good with the W build specifically because it allows you to deal a great deal of burst damage on a target that you can't hit with Ruthless Spirit. In any situation where you genuinely think you're going to be able to proc the E, or if you're playing like Tank Maiev or something, I would go Ruthless, but in every other situation, I just go Elune's Wrath. And the reason behind Elune's Wrath, Jesus, words are hard to say, is it's simply more dependable than any of the other talents. All it requires you to do is get a Q reset, and obviously on Maiev, half the fucking hero is getting Q resets, and pretty much everything else is the other half of the hero. At level 10, I think both ultimates are perfectly viable. Personally, I prefer Containment Disc a little bit more because I like the flexibility it gives you. If you can land it on a important target, you can choose when you want to deactivate that target, and you can use it for isolation. And isolation is just universally useful. Warden's Cage is a good ultimate as well. It just requires you to have follow-up or to be able to self-enable quite well. If you are self-enabling, you're not likely to be able to delete enemy heroes until we get to 16 and we pick up our Giant Killer. In every other situation, it's fine. At level 13, we typically go Bladed Armor because it's consistent and we can proc it while poking. If you want more armor, you go for Chain Gang, which gives you 35 for 4 seconds, but no way to refresh the armor. And Shadow Armor is kind of the worst of both worlds rather than the best of both worlds, in that it gives you 3.5 and basic attacks will refresh it, but it is tied to your E, so you can't just get it just by poking easily. And honestly, it's very easy to get the Bladed Armor, and because it lasts for 5 full seconds as well, you tend to get the armor for a very long time. Now, with 16, we have a little bit of a decision to make. So Cruel Chain used to be better, it got nerfed, and now after the nerf, I think it is just completely unpickable without the level 1 quest, in which case it becomes extremely fucking good. But I think specifically for when you are playing for your cage win condition, I think you just go Vengeful Knives, because the Vengeful Knives adds a Giant Killer element, and you can see the Giant Killer in this situation where it is dealing a bonus maximum health damage of 5% because your Q has dealt damage 5 times. Also, keep in mind, the way the 16 works is dealing damage to enemy heroes, right? Any individual instance of damage causes the next fan to deal 1% maximum health as bonus damage. This talent at level 7, Elune's Wrath, is another individual instance of damage, right? So if you are proccing this on 2 heroes constantly, you are going to get the additional ticks very fucking fast, right? And it's worth noting that the damage from Vengeful Knives itself is a separate tick of damage, right? So if I was only to queue one hero over and over and over again, I have to toggle cooldowns in order to do that. But you can see that it is only getting the one proc. Oh, am I a fucking liar? I think I'm a fucking liar, guys. Bonus maximum health 1%. Oh, I thought the damage procced it for some reason. Why am I getting so many procs then? Wait, how am I getting to 5 procs then? I'm so confused. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is... Oh, am I auto-attacking? Is that why? It's because I'm auto-attacking and I'm a chimpanzee. Jesus Christ, I'm so fucking dumb. Raven, thank you for the prime. I presume that's how you pronounce that, but I'm not 100% sure. Thank you very much, regardless. I'm a fucking monkey is the answer to that question. So yeah, the damage from the Vengeful Knives does not proc Vengeful Knives, so that's worth noting. We should talk about the other 16, which is kind of the elephant in the room, which is Armored Assault. So Armored Assault allows you to do that, which is 3,700 burst damage in about half second. That's not a small amount of burst damage, and that's basically guaranteed off of your cage because the Naisha's heavily prioritizes heroes over anything else that it will hit, right? So you basically E in, you Q auto and that, and then you immediately deal like 3,400 damage, for example, with basically an auto attack, a W reset, and another auto attack, right? So you do that, and then you do that, and then, for example, 4,800 damage. We keep auto attacking. You can see the damage just gets fucking absurd. So the AoE damage from Naisha's is typically better than any of the other things off of... Wait, one second. The AoE damage off of Naisha's is typically the highest value you will get for the AoE damage. So if you're looking for AoE damage, you just want to take Naisha's. Also, Naisha's is the hardest one to execute because it requires you to be able to weave in auto attacks while moving, which is not easy to do when you have to constantly left click away from the hero, Q back, left click away, and then mix in the auto attacks during that, right? So you have to do quite a bit of clicking back and forth. Basically, it's micro intensive, which is one of the reasons this hero is considered difficult. As long as you can practice this, you will get good at it whether you want to or not. And that will just generally make your life significantly easier. I hope this answers all your questions. I think if you're doing AoE damage, you're probably better off with Vengeful Knives, personally, into the tankier targets, and you'll be better off with... One second. Did I troll? Am I lying? Did I do my math wrong? No, I didn't. Okay. So usually, if you can proc Vengeful Knives to the 5%, it pretty much always will do more than the Naisha's will. But if you can't proc Vengeful Knives guaranteed, or you need higher like upfront burst damage that isn't reliant on your Qs, then you just go for the Armored Assault. Although even then, you still have to proc at least 1 Q to get some physical armor to proc your armored assault, because it's while you have positive armor of any kind, you get the additional damage. Level 20 is highly variable. With this build specifically, you will go for Shadow Orb Huntress, which is 40% attack plus move speed. With 40% attack plus move speed, you can do this, then you do this, then you just do this, and then it's really, really fucking stupid how much damage you do. You just kind of bounce for 30 fucking years. It's very, very dumb. Obviously you attack faster and you move faster, and also dealing physical damage to enemy heroes 10 times will reset this. So if you specifically go for the Blade Dance at level 4, this is why. This is the major reason why, is in order to proc your level 20 talent more frequently and more easily, because otherwise you have to do 3 bouncing auto attacks that hit 3 things plus 1 auto. Or you have to do 9 auto attacks total, which is not easy to do at level 20, because if you're doing 9 auto attacks, then the game is just fucking ended, because it's specifically on enemy heroes, not on anything else but enemy heroes. So the bans have to be on heroes. A couple interesting matchups for Maiev that are worth talking about. Anything with an unstoppable, you're generally good trading into. It's generally good if you trade into a Lucio and he high fives like 3 people, because your W is back up in 14 seconds and your E is back up virtually at the same time. It's actually timed such that you can E and then W if you press them at the same time, because it takes about 1 second for your E to get there, and then the W will be off cooldown by the time you get there, if you press both of these buttons at the exact same time. The other things to note about Maiev that are particularly difficult, besides the aiming between heroes, is you need to weave in auto attacks, and if there are any auto attack speed modifiers, it makes it significantly more difficult. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward. Your W is a massive arc, similar to Johanna's Punish, but even wider. So take advantage of it. You can, for example, W like this, and you will still hit the target to the side. And you'll notice that I was pretty much at a flat angle like this. So there's quite a bit of arc on the W. You can use it by hitting, like, for example, a minion. And you can use that minion to tether to a nearby hero. You can also do the same thing on a gate, which is extremely effective when pushing. That is the main thing that I would think of when I'm talking about Maiev tips, is using other things to proc the W, because the pull is a stun, right? So this is a 0.5 second stun. This is not a daze. This is a stun. This will break Lili's Jug of 1000 Cups. This will break anything that requires hard CC that requires a soft CC in order to counter it. Or hard CC to counter it, sorry. Other way around, I'm going backwards. Other than that, I believe that's the majority of basic shit on Maiev that you want to know. I don't think there's anything else that's too important that I haven't already mentioned for this particular build, I should point out. Now, Maiev does have a ton of talent diversity and a ton of different builds. There are one-tricks who exclusively go W build. There are people who exclusively go Pursuit. I think for competitive, you exclusively go Naisha's because it gives her more macro, and more macro is always correct in competitive, unless you are disrespecting your opponent, in which case I don't want to talk to you. I think that's it. If you have any other questions, throw them at me right now, Dorkster. Or if anybody has any other questions, throw them at me right now. Because I'm going to forget everything in like 30 seconds. And yeah, that just about does it.